Alright, so fourth period, we have one final topic for your quiz today, and that's solving systems of equations with using matrices. So, we know, for example, looking at question 1, how you would solve that. You can either use like graphing, find where they intersect, substitution, or elimination. We've learned those skills before, so let's talk about what it might look like with matrices instead. So when we are creating our matrix, so think about our matrix A is what we're going to call this. You're using your coefficients. So in our first equation, our coefficient for x, we have 2, coefficient for y, -3. Second equation, our coefficient for x is 4 and 1. It's multiplied by xy equals -13, -5. So think about this as like our x equal to this matrix B. I'm going to rewrite this up here. So kind of think that I give you that matrix A times x, what you're really solving for. We're really solving to figure out what x and y is, equals some matrix B. So thinking about in math, what would you do just to solve for x? Think about here always, if you had something like 2x, you would divide by 2. If you had like x plus 5, you would subtract 5. Remember, you're always doing your inverse operations. So keyword here, doing your inverse operations. So we are going to multiply both sides by the inverse of A just so we can get x. And remember, matrix multiplication is not commutative, so we have to multiply by the left on both sides. So right here, the inverse of A times A is going to just kind of cancel out. So really, when you want to find x, that matrix you're solving for, it's always the inverse of that A matrix times B, kind of that matrix of what it's equal to. So why don't you always try like 1 and 5, solving those by hand. So what you're going to do is you're going to find that inverse of matrix A. So remember, when you want to find your matrix inverse, first you're finding here it's 1 over your determinant. So think about 1 over, you would have 2 minus -12, and then you're switching your A and B spots, so it's 1, 2, and then making them opposite, so 3, -4. So that is your inverse. And then remember, you're really multiplying it by this B, which is -13, -5. So take a second and compute that, and then I'm gonna unpause the video, or pause the video, take a second to compute it, and then unpause it and check what you got. Alright, so you should have come up with -2, 3. So remember what this means is x is -2, and then y is 3 right here. So kind of if you were struggling with fractions a little, something that would have made it a little easier is if you multiplied your two matrices together and then multiplied everything inside by 1 over 14. Because this value out here is not a matrix, so you're able to do that, okay. So let's go over how to do this with a 3 by 3. So remember, with a 3 by 3 matrix, we weren't finding the inverse. We're using the calculator to help us. So we'll go over this with the calculator. So let's go over let's just go over number 6. So we're going to set up our matrix first to begin with. So once again, using those coefficients. So my coefficients for my first equation are 2, negative 1, 1. And then my coefficients for my second equation are 1, 2, negative 3. Coefficients for the third equation are 3, negative 2, 1. Remember, our variables are x, y, z. And it equals negative 6, 9, negative 3. So we still have that same idea of A times x equals b. So remember, x is always going to be equal to the inverse of A times b. So, how we're going to do that in our calculator is we're going to use those matrix to input it into the calculator. So with your TI graphing calculator, if you see under math, matrix is in blue right here. So think about it's our inverse button. So we're doing second x to the negative 1. So here are where we're going to get our matrices, but before we get them, we have to edit them to make sure they're using the right value. So you right click over to edit, and you're going to hit enter. So for our matrix A, I want it to be a 3 by 3, which is what I have right now, which is good. If not, you would just change that out. And then you're going to enter those values here. So we'll have 2, negative 1, 1, all right, so you're just double checking, make sure you have those all entered. And then I'm going to go back to my matrix. And I'm going to edit now matrix B. So matrix B was my 3 by 1. So I have negative 6, 9, and then negative 3. So let's go back. So think about what I'm really, and what I want to figure out in my calculator is x. And it's going to be the inverse of A times matrix B. So I'm going to go back to matrices. And I'm going to, now, since I have my matrix A exactly as I want it, I'm going to hit enter. And I want the inverse of it. So, remember, inverse means my exponent is that negative 1. So I'm going to hit inverse. And now I'm multiplying it, so hit the multiplication symbol by my matrix B. So second matrix, I want B now. And so I get negative 2, negative 5, negative 7. So think about what that really means. Negative 2, negative 5, negative 7. Remember, that's meaning it's x is negative 2, y is negative 5, and z is negative 7. Alright, so from here, you guys should take about maybe 10-15 minutes to practice these skills, and then after about 10-15 minutes you guys should be taking your quiz. So you can have the rest of the class period to take the quiz. Remember, open notes for the quiz, but not open person sitting next to you, so you should be working on your own on the quiz, but you are able to use your notes for them. So open notes for the quiz. When you're done, just turn it into the 4th period spot in the purple bin. And then after, I'm giving the sub copies of the final exam review, so you could be working on your final exam review for the rest of the time. Next class, we'll spend, you can take about the first hour to first half of the class. Kind of we'll stop at least after an hour to finish your final exam review. And then after like the first hour of class next time, then we will just go over what questions you might have. So
please call 2551 Kara Davis 2551.
So keep that in mind. That'll be next class, which is on Wednesday.